Just found out my wife is cheating. For a little background, our relationship hasn't been great for about a year and bad for about 3 months. Been together for 13 years and have 2 kids. We were fighting about something stupid, don't even remember what it was, and it got to the point where I told her I can't live like this anymore. I asked if we should make an effort to fix things and get back to when things were good. She didn't even hesitate and said move out. It hurt because it wasn't what I was expecting. Fast forward a day and I said we should just get divorced and sell the house so we can start healing and move on. She suddenly changed her mind and said we should try make it work. Fast forward 1 week and things were actually really good between us. It's the best I've felt in a year, but I had a lingering feeling because she was so quick to try give me the boot. I did something I've never done before and went through her phone while she was having a nap. Turns out she's been having a relationship with a guy for months, maybe longer. Was even flirting with another guy. What hurt the most was she was talking about us and me to them both while still making plans with the one guy after she said we will try make it work. She told him she should try make it work because she has a busy summer planned and doesn't want a divorce to disrupt it. I'm crushed. I took pics of everything. Plan on confronting her but don't know when or how to go about it. I love her so much and have been hurting over the past year because I watched the relationship downgrade. Redditor's reactions, story 2 after. Redditor 1, don't confront her. Not yet. You have the upper hand, she thinks you don't know. Go meet with 3 or more good divorce lawyers, pick the one that is brutally honest with you and no nonsense. Get more evidence if possible. Then once you've worked out a place to go, you're regularly seeing a therapist, hit her with the confrontation and the divorce papers, tell her all contact is through the attorney, and walk away. Redditor follow-up, effort to fix things and get back to when things were good. She didn't even hesitate and said move out. It hurt because it wasn't what I was expecting. Fast forward a day and I said we should just get divorced and sell the house so we can start healing and move on. She suddenly changed her mind and said we should try make it work. Fast forward 1 week and things were actually really good between us. It's the best I've felt in a year, but I had a lingering feeling because she was so quick to try give me the boot. I did something I've never done before and went through her phone while she was having a nap. Turns out she's been having a relationship with a guy for months, maybe longer. Was even flirting with another guy. What hurt the most was she was talking about us and me to them both while still making plans with the one guy after she said we will try make it work. She told him she should try make it work because she has a busy summer planned and doesn't want a divorce to disrupt it. I'm crushed. I took pics of everything. Plan on confronting her but don't know when or how to go about it. I love her so much and have been hurting over the past year because I watched the relationship downgrade. From experience, this is excellent advice. It seems clear that she wants out. If you confront her before you do the above and have your plan set in your head, you are just going to get wrapped around the axle going back and forth with you accusing her and her denying lying. Why go through that? It is emotionally draining, extremely frustrating, and gets you nowhere. Good luck. You are a good man. Redditor 2, the recent fighting is because of the affair, not the cause of the affair. She decided to work it out because she realized the other guy wouldn't commit. Her plan is to fake it with you and keep cheating. Her actions show you she's not trying to fix anything, she just wants to string you along for a while until it's more convenient for her, once another guy will commit. Talk to a lawyer and start working on your exit strategy. Don't confront until you have a plan in place. Figure out how to separate finances, where you will go to, and continue to gather evidence. She's working on her exit strategy already. Redditor follow up, agree. Lawyer up, keep your cool, document acts of betrayal. So sorry to hear you go through this. Rough road ahead. Plan the route. Let us know how it goes. Redditor 3, do not confront your wife. Do not let her know what you know or how you know it. Gather evidence. Get a lawyer. Do what he says. File for divorce even if you hope to reconcile. It can be stopped at any time. Pretend to be ill to cover your attitude. Stomach pain should do it. See a doctor for stress. Do not leave the family home. Separate finances. Change all your passwords everywhere. Close joint credit cards. Move important documents to a safe place. Get STD check. Do not have time with your so. You're not well. Remember, maybe get DNA test for child. Get individual professional non-religious counseling to help you cope and to help make decisions. Do not drink or do drugs. Get exercise, especially cardio. Go to the gym often. Get out with friends and family. Get busy with work, hobbies, sports. Inform your family and STBX family after being served. Change your will. Good luck. Story 2, I'm devastated, missing my child, and just hope anybody can relate to my situation. So I've 32M already began divorce proceedings with my STBXW27F. I live in Kentucky and my STBXW is currently in Florida with our 14-month child. This is a very long story with so much drama, and this is also a throwaway account because my STBXW knows my Reddit account. I normally don't post online about myself, but I really feel so alone at this moment that I could really use some support. So a bit of backstory, but when I was 18 I was in an abusive relationship with a woman and we had a child together despite using birth control. She cheated on me multiple times, but the kicker was when she ended up cheating on me with my best friend, we'll call him James, and I was absolutely destroyed by this. I stopped talking to my friend for years, but eventually I pulled myself up and reached out to this friend. He talked about how we was so incredibly sorry and I forgave him. In my mind at the time, I had let this woman alienate me from all of my close friends and I just didn't want to lose my oldest childhood friend because of this. Sadly, this becomes relevant later. So, fast forward to the current day, I've since gotten custody of my 13-year-old son and was happily married. My wife comes from an extremely wealthy family, whereas I grew up impoverished and struggling with simple things like food security. My parents were divorced and I lived with my mom who received disability. At 30, I had a good job running a land surveying operation with my dad who is a licensed surveyor. My wife was going to school for her bachelor's and I was working full-time while also working on getting my associate's degree. Things seemed relatively fine, but now looking back at it I'm noticing all these red flags that I ignored because I was in love. My wife struggled in school a lot. It seemed strange to me that she was struggling so hard, while I was getting good grades and working full-time. She used to get very upset with me for my good grades, so I would lie to her and tell her I got C's when I was really getting a nearly 4.0 GPA. I would try to encourage her and help her with homework, but this eventually led to me just doing her homework for her because she was too paralyzed to do it herself. Whenever COVID hit, my job suffered and I began making less money. We still were doing fine financially, but it was less. Even though she was on birth control, she got pregnant and we had a child together. When she was pregnant, this was when things first began taking a turn for the worst. Her dad died of COVID about 2 months before our daughter was born, and there was a lot of grief and mourning. Our daughter was born March 2021, and I took time off work to be as involved as possible with my daughter. I really wanted to have a strong bond with her, so I took months off, and when I did return to work it was only part-time. My wife was suffering from postpartum, and I had read online that the best thing to do when your partner is suffering from postpartum is to help as much as possible, so I did. I would routinely do things for my wife like make her breakfast in bed, and I took great care of my daughter. My wife has always been awful at doing chores. She never liked to clean, do dishes or cook dinner, so we would pay people to come and clean our house, but since I was making less money now, these responsibilities fell on me. But these were all things I mostly enjoyed, so I happily did them, but after a while things started to weigh on me. I began going to therapy. I was initially diagnosed with bipolar, but that diagnosis was changed to ADHD, and I'm now receiving proper treatment. My wife began doing very concerning things. She would accuse me of having an affair with my therapist. If I went to work, she would demand that I come home to help with our baby. She would tell me things like sometimes when she got really frustrated with our baby and she would have to fight the urge to shake her. I couldn't believe these things and I was scared. She was becoming much angrier than usual, which she's always been one to have anger issues, but things were getting, well, bad. There were several instances where she would do something downright horrible in front of my family and son, and I would have to apologize on her behalf and try to mend relationships, but going into detail on those would make my already very long story even longer. So problems came to the surface July 2021, where I woke up at 4 a.m. and she was screaming at our 4-month-old and rocking her emo too hard to go to sleep because she was crying. I sat straight up and told her to give me our baby, and I would take care of her. Wife got kind of sheepish, like she was just caught. I told her she was scaring our child and she needed to give her to me. She did, and then she went to sleep. I took care of the baby and laid her back down, but I couldn't go back to sleep. I was really struggling to come to terms with what just happened. I went to work that day, and when I came home she wanted to confront me and defend herself, and I would just tell her that I couldn't talk to her ATM. I just wanted to take a shower and take my dog to his vet appointment and we could talk about it later. She followed me around, and I kept asking her to just leave me alone. I ended up going outside and she followed, yelling at me. I told her that she had anger issues and she didn't care about anyone but herself, and that she needed to act better. She stepped forward and slapped me, hard. I didn't hit her back or anything, I just kinda slumped and said, "Look what you've done now." Then I went upstairs and sat on the toilet, kinda crying but mostly in shock. She followed me up the stairs, and I remember this very clearly because she never apologized. She was just trying to explain how she got so defensive and how what I said just made her so angry because it was similar to her abusive parents. I couldn't believe she wasn't apologizing and instead was defending herself. I didn't take my shower or anything, and I just left to take our dog to the vet. While I was at the vet, she contacted some of my family to take her to a mental hospital so she could get treatment. When I got back she was gone, was headed to the hospital, and she was just texting me telling me how sorry she was. She got diagnosed with postpartum and it took time, but I tried my best to forgive her and be understanding. When she got back, things were somewhat normal for a bit, but after about 3 days she asked me why I seemed withdrawn, and I just said something along the lines of, "Well, it's hard for me to cope with the fact that you hit me." She started telling me that years ago I threw a hairbrush at her and she forgave me for it. I don't remember ever doing this, but all of a sudden this was being brought up and I would have to apologize for it to placate her even though I didn't remember doing it. Now I'm understanding that it never happened. Well, a few months later her stepmother in Florida was diagnosed with lung cancer and offered to buy us a $400,000 house in Florida. Now I live in Kentucky, so we would have to move down. It was exciting because my old friend, James, lived in Florida now as well and I would be able to see him again. We bought the house, but things became troublesome with negotiating the move with my 13-year son's mother, which I completely understood her point of view. I began reconsidering the move, not wanting to give up my son. My wife began telling me that it's up to my son who he wants to live with, and if he wanted to live with his mom instead of us, that's his choice and I needed to give him that option. I was resistant to this at first, but she told me her mom and then her therapist agreed with her, and so eventually I conceded and gave him the option of coming with us to Florida or staying with his mom. He said he didn't want us to move, but if we did he would want to stay with his mother up here. Things got weird after he told me that. My wife got extremely upset and began yelling at him through the bathroom door while he was using the bathroom. He went upstairs and secluded himself to his bedroom. I felt terrible, and then my wife begins blaming it on me, saying she never told me to give him that option. She insisted that she never said anything like that, and I eventually just gave up. So, things kind of settled down for a bit. My wife barely managed to get her bachelor's degree. She got in trouble for plagiarism, and so afterwards I was writing papers for her more and taking her tests. She graduated with around a 2.4 GPA. She also began taking Prozac and she said it would help with her anger issues. And TBH, I thought that she was improving. We began making a lot of plans. Since business was slowing down here, my father began working on getting his land surveying license in Florida, and he ended up landing a pretty decent job with his first day being May 16th. We all went down to Florida at the end of March, and my father, son, and I came back up to let my son finish out the school year while my wife stayed in Florida with our 1-year-old daughter so she could visit her elderly stepmother with cancer, because she probably doesn't have too much time left. Again, things seemed relatively fine. I thought my wife was in love with me and I was in love with her. I was willing to give up my son to let her be closer to her family. My dad and I quit our jobs up here at the beginning of May, and he began prepping himself to go down there. He was going to stay with us for a little bit until he sold his houses up here so he could buy the empty lot next to our Florida home and build himself a house. My dad got down to Florida on Friday, May 6th. It's a 14-hour drive, and on Saturday, May 7th, my wife calls to tell me that she doesn't love me anymore, and that she hasn't loved me for a long time. I'm devastated at this point. I cry a good bit, but I got the impression that my wife was enjoying it, and it was slightly off-putting. She and I had been together about 6 years, married for 3 of those years, and it seemed hard to swallow. That evening I asked her if she was still wanted me to come down and she said sure. I asked her what we were going to do about our daughter together if things didn't work out. She said she wouldn't keep her from me, but she was going to stay in Florida with her. I was completely devastated. I reached out to friends and family, and they were pretty supportive. Turns out, my wife had been having an affair and had texted a friend about it, which she screenshotted and sent to me. I immediately contacted a lawyer to see what my legal rights were and began divorce proceedings. My wife, on Tuesday, May 10th, allowed our daughter to get into her psych meds and she had to contact poison control and rinse her mouth out, but around 9 a.m. she asked my dad, who was now down there, to watch our daughter so she could go have Amy Day. She was gone until around midnight. While she was out, she went to my friend, James, 2 hours away, and the affair went from an emotional affair to a physical affair. My dad moved out the next day. She didn't come clean about this affair until I figured it out, which I only figured out because James never responded to me when I told him I was filing for divorce. Before my wife came clean, she kept trying to talk to me about how she just wanted me to choose her, and how this wasn't sudden or anything. I told her that I was even willing to give up my son for her and that she was chosen, but now I'm not willing to do that, and that to me things were sudden because I was happy. Turns out she was just trying to absolve her guilt. So, here I am currently. I don't have my job anymore. I don't have my child. I don't have my father around to rely on. She has our car down in Florida. I'm not the homeowner like I expected to be. I had to pay for my lawyer using a credit card. There is a silver lining though, and that is due to the laws regarding child custody. The state that determines the custody of our 14-month-old daughter is Kentucky and not Florida. So she has to go to court and try to convince the courts to let her move with our daughter down to Florida. Meanwhile, my lawyer seems fairly confident that we can get sole custody. My STBXW is wanting to work things out and I'm just not talking to her at all. She keeps saying that she never wanted a divorce and that I went too far. She's since reached out to my dad and told my dad that if we work things out I have to remove my name off the deed to the Florida home, so the ownership is entirely hers. That her mother will always hate me because I'm a terrible person, but she just wishes I would come to Florida so we can work things out. She refuses to come back to Kentucky unless I drop the divorce proceedings. I have no intention on working things out. The worst thing about all this is that I can't bring myself to cry. I want to cry so badly, but when I do I just feel guilty for letting myself fall into this situation. If I hadn't reached out to James, then perhaps my wife would have never cheated like she did. What's worse is that I know she did it to hurt me. She knew about mine and James's history and picked the one person in the entire world to have an affair with that could deliver such a devastating blow to my confidence. Is there anyone out there that can relate to this? Redditors' reactions. Redditor 1, why in the world you will have a friendship with James again in first place? Second, you made a right decision of divorcing her, move back to Kentucky, be with your son and daughter, she doesn't deserve second chance, and focus on your finances, brother, best wishes from my side. Also cut off that sank James completely from your life, he did the same thing twice to you. Redditor follow-up, yes, I was confused why he would let that person back in. Like Wather. Fool me once, shame on him, fool me twice, can't really put the blame on him. Crazy, best of luck op. Especially repair your relationship with your son. Apologize for leaving him and for STBXW yelling at him. Again, good luck. Redditor 2, bro, go scorched earth on that B exclamation mark yen euro h and take her for everything you can get, and when things settle down have someone, note I say someone, pay James a visit so he can understand the error of his ways. He's wronged you twice now and he shouldn't get away scot-free, Juice saying. And to all those who are gonna throw the he didn't make vows to you nonsense around, guess what? Sometimes lessons need to be sown into the flesh to be learned. Clearly he learned nothing the first time around. Just my opinion. Op answer, ha ha ha. I know it would feel like the right thing to do, but I got a kick out of when I was talking to my therapist about it. She said, well, If you think about it, your friend has done you a favor by saving you from not just one but two crazy toxic relationships. I said I guess I should thank him, huh? She goes, I wouldn't thank him. Redditor 3. Yes, my SDBXW slept with my ex-best friend of over 20 years. She did it to hurt me as well. We have a 4-year-old daughter as well. The live in Ohio. She's cheated numerous times, but the last time was with another supposed friend, but he just played the game pretending to be my friend to get close to her, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I moved back to Wisconsin, and now I talk to my child when the ex sees fit. If I make her mad, she punishes me, but not answering for days, weeks, months. So now I'm a go for full custody, cause ain't nobody keeping my kid away from me. Plus a lot more to the story, too much to type. So to answer her question, yes, I feel ya, and yes, she's on real shit, and no, don't go back. She's just gonna do it again. Get a kid and don't look back and trust and believe him gonna do the same. Op answer, duck dude, that's awful. I wish you the best of luck with custody of your kid. No kid should be purposely deprived of a father like that. I really can't stand people who do that to children and use their children as weapons to get back at the other parent. It happened to me with my first child, and now it's happening again with the second. Stay strong and you can get through this and fight like hell. Redditor 4, when someone gets angry, jealous at your success instead of happy for you, it's the clearest indication that they don't love you. When she started giving you problems because your marks were better than hers, that was the time to bail. This is not postpartum depression. She was always like this. Try to use her abuse and neglect of your daughter to get full custody. About James, why would you go out of your way to let a known backstabber back in your life? That one was on you. Redditor follow up, right, as a companion and partner, any win for you should be perceived as a win for them too. Not as a threat or a loss. That you versus her thinking process instead of y'all versus problem is a red flag. You got good grades. She got upset. Not just absurd, but alarming. She showed her hand. In whatever zero-sum game she was playing, you and her were not on the same team.